I'm taking on my biggest crochet project ever because I saw this video and had to have this crochet caterpillar for my daughter. We're gonna crochet every single thing that the hungry caterpillar ate, and it's all gonna be stored inside of the hungry caterpillar. How fun will it be to read her the book while I have this to go along with it? You could definitely argue that the blanket was my biggest crochet project I've ever done, but I think this tops it because it has so many different parts and there's more techniques that I've never done before that we'll have to learn together. Right out of the gate, it took me a second to get adjusted because I'm used to working with a way bigger hook and way bigger yarn. If you haven't figured it out yet, we're making the apple first. I want to go in the order of the book, so next will be 2 pairs. I'm trying to decide if I should just give it to her as soon as it's done or if I should wait till she's a little bit older and she can appreciate it more. I would do a little here, a little there, and I kept coming back to it and forgetting where I was in the pattern. So I'm like 95% sure that there are parts of the pattern that I did multiple times, and that's why it looks a little bit wonky. I feel like this was just a repeat of the Willow wonky situation with the chicken, because if my stitches were off and around, I would just increase a little here or decrease a little there to even it out. But the nice thing about crochet is it doesn't have to be perfect and it still looks cute. Now we're on to the stem, and that was really quick. So after sewing that on, I just had to tuck it in, and I'm really happy with how it turned out. What do you guys think? Buckle up because I'm back with part 2 of crocheting everything in the Hungry Caterpillar book, all because I saw this video and had to have it for my daughter. We're going in the order of the book, so we've already finished the apple, and next up is 2 pairs. The pattern for these started with a magic circle, and please tell me I'm not the only one that has to look up a tutorial every single time I do a magic circle. I will never figure it out. After I finished the top little part of the pear, it was starting to look like a hat, so I had to test it out on Bear, and he was not a fan. Once the pear got to this point, you were supposed to stuff it as you go, and I got some comments saying that my stuffing looked lumpy, so this was me attempting to fix that. But then right after that, I got distracted and crocheted the whole thing closed before realizing that I didn't finish stuffing it. So it seriously looked like a pancake, and call me lazy if you want, but there was no way that I was unraveling that. So I about broke my fingers trying to cram it in that tiny little hole. But we got it done, and I just plowed through that second pair. Weaving in the ends is easily my least favorite part, but honestly with plushies, I don't mind it. Probably because you can just thread it right through the stuffing and it stays put. Now to throw in the little stems, I love that this was a lighter brown color versus the apple. And honestly, I feel like these pairs are way cuter than the apple. Now that they're done, it's time to make 3 plums in part 3. We're moving on to part 3, my biggest project ever, crocheting every single thing that the hungry caterpillar eats, all because I saw this video and I had to have it for my daughter. So far, we finished the apple and 2 pairs, and now we need to do 3 plums. When I tell you I was gutted when you guys all told me that I was doing it inside out, do we think they look fine or do we need to redo them? I definitely won't make this mistake with the plums. Also, someone lied to me. I was told in the comments to do a center pull instead, and it made this giant tangling mess that I couldn't undo, so I will never be doing that again. I ended up just cutting it and tying a knot, but after that was taken care of, we got into making these plums. And I'll be honest, with the last couple fruits, I was definitely gaslighting myself if it was inside out or not, because it looked like it was, but it was also bending naturally that way, so I was like, whatever, this must be right. I haven't crocheted in a hot minute. I would bet that these plums and probably the oranges will be the easiest ones that I crochet in this whole series. One of them turned out slightly smaller than the others, and I think it's just because I crocheted it a little bit tighter. But then as I'm comparing it to the inside out pair, they looked exactly the same, so I don't know how you guys were able to tell a difference. It just felt right to break them in with some juggling, even though neither of us know how to. Next up, let's crochet 4 strawberries in part 4. So I'm back with part 4 of crocheting every single thing that the hungry caterpillar eats in my biggest crochet project ever, all because I saw this video and had to have it for my daughter. So far we've done 1 apple, 2 pears, and 3 plums. Next up is 4 strawberries, and if you know me at all, you know I have an obsession with strawberries. A couple summers ago, we crocheted a giant strawberry together and it was amazing. So as you can imagine, I'm really excited to do this life-size version. And I just had a fun thought about all of these foods because yes, they are for the hungry caterpillar, but she can also use them for like a play kitchen, and I think that's such a fun idea. The best part about taking you guys along on these crochet projects is all the good advice I get in the comments. Keep the noodle in the bowl is what one of you guys suggested for remembering if it's inside out or not, and I think that was absolutely genius. I will never forget now. Trying to read the pattern for these leaves was like doing rocket science. I sat there staring at the pattern for who knows how long trying to figure out what it was saying, but they were crucial, so of course I had to figure it out. You can't have a strawberry without the leaves. But the real question is, do I add seeds? Because I did it on one and I don't know if I love it. What do you guys think? I'm also second guessing if I should add stems to the plums, but now that we're done with all of those, it's time to move on to 5 oranges in part 5. Can you believe we're already on part 5 of crocheting every single thing that the hungry caterpillar eats, all because I saw this video and had to have it for my daughter? Next on our to-do list is 5 oranges, but we've got some unfinished business that we need to take care of first. You guys insisted that I needed to add seeds, and you were right, they look so cute. But then it got me thinking about our plums because someone commented that they just looked like giant grapes, and that just wrecked me. We cannot have that, so we gotta fix it. We're gonna try and make them look as close to the book as possible, which means 3 stems and only 2 leaves. And speaking of leaves, I had to go rogue because they weren't part of the pattern. I messed messed around with a couple different random patterns that I found on the internet and decided to go with the smallest ones. And the best news is now you can't say that they look like giant grapes. And now we can get back to why we're really here, the oranges. I love how bright this yarn is. And some good news is I feel like I'm getting so much better at my magic circle and crocheting anything in a round shape, which makes me want to redo our apple because the more I look at it, the more I hate it. And you'll be very pleased to know not only did I not forget to stuff it, but I made extra stems and leaves for these oranges. But if we're matching it to the book, that means I'm only adding 2 stems and 1 leaf. Up next, we're crocheting my favorite food in the entire world, 1 piece of chocolate cake, so stay tuned for that in part 6. Let's crochet my favorite food of all time in my biggest crochet project ever. Welcome back to part 6 of crocheting the hungry caterpillar and everything it eats, all because I saw this video and had to have it for my daughter. Next on our to-do list is 1 piece of chocolate cake, and I'm already drooling at the thought. I didn't want to wait until the next morning to get started, so we got real cozy with a headlamp and my cute little chick biscuit. There were lots of firsts for me with this cake project, number 1 being crocheting in a square. I had never done that before. The other new thing was changing colors mid-row, and this was one of those making a molehill out of an anthill, or however that saying goes. I procrastinated for a couple days moving on to this next color of row because I was so nervous about it for who knows why. It was so easy. But once we got that figured out, the next cream row was a piece of cake, pun intended. My only complaint with this project is this part right here where the colors change and kind of looks slanted. Is there a way to fix that? If there is, please let me know. But now that the cake's done, all we need to do is the cherry. After I'd already sewed the cherry on, I looked back at the pattern and realized I was supposed to sew the cherry closed so it looked more like a round shape, but I still think it looks cute. But I know you guys will give it to me straight, so let me know if I should fix it. But just look how many things we've made so far. Stick around for part 7 because we still need to make this ice cream cone next. Is it real or is it crochet? Welcome back to part 7 of crocheting every single thing that the hungry caterpillar eats. All because I saw this video and had to have it for my daughter. As you already know, we're going in the order of the book, so that means next up is an ice cream cone. I really got ahead of myself with this one because I didn't check what color we were supposed to be using and just assumed that we were starting with a cone and pulled out the brown. It didn't take me very long to realize it wasn't looking very much like a cone, so I checked the instructions and it said I was supposed to use the pink because we're starting with the ice cream. So after some unraveling and a quick switcheroo, we were on our way. Out of everything that we've made for the hungry caterpillar, this has by far been my favorite. Not necessarily because of what it is, but because of one step on how it was crocheted. The scallop border on the ice cream was front stitch only, so then when I attached the ice cream cone, it was back stitch only, and that just tickled my brain. But closing the cone was another story. I was breaking a sweat. And after sewing it closed, it was time for the real test, because obviously you can't tell these apart. Honestly, you may never know which one is real and which one is crochet. But let's get back to business. Now that we finished our ice cream cone, let's look at everything else that we've made. We're seriously cruising through this book, but I'm a little bit nervous for the next one because we've got to do a pickle in part 8. Somehow it's already part 8 of crocheting every single thing that the hungry caterpillar eats in my biggest crochet project ever, all because I saw this video and had to have it for my daughter. This time we're making a pickle. I've always thought pickles were disgusting, but my husband could eat a whole jar in 5 minutes, so I can't help but think about if my daughter will end up loving pickles too or be a pickle hater like me. When I looked at the pattern for the pickle, I started to get a little stressed out because there was a stitch that I'd never seen before, this peacock stitch. I don't know if that's how you say it, but it looked scary. So in true procrastinator fashion, I waited as long as possible to get started on this, but surprise, surprise, it actually ended up being very simple and not me catching a literal spider crawling behind me. I guess we're just gonna have to burn my couch now, but no, I've been having dreams of spiders just crawling on everything and everywhere, and I wonder if that's because of that video. But let's not get sidetracked. So far we've made 1 apple, 2 pears, 3 plums, 4 strawberries, 5 oranges, 1 piece of chocolate cake, 1 ice cream cone, and now a pickle. And surprisingly, this is one of my favorites. I love the little lumps. Seeing everything laid out makes me think this caterpillar must be huge to fit everything we're gonna make, but next we need to do Swiss cheese in part 9. This will be the most technical piece of crochet I've ever made. Welcome back to part 9 of crocheting every single thing that the hungry caterpillar eats. All because I saw this video and had to have it for my daughter. We're going in the order of the book, and next up is 1 slice of Swiss cheese. I find it funny because ever since I started this series, I've been getting messages asking for tutorials for how to do these, and guys, I don't even know what I'm doing half the time. Case in point, I will always be following a pattern, and this part of the pattern actually had a stitch chart, which I don't know how to read those. I do want to learn, but today was not that day. I stuck to the regular old instructions, but it did get confusing at times, especially with all these chains hanging off everywhere. It felt like pure chaos, and it definitely didn't help that this is what it looked like after completing 1 whole side. It was a trust the process sort of situation, but then it got worse because we're supposed to whip stitch these together, so I left really long tails and it ended up just making a giant tangly mess. And it turns out all of those weird chain loops just get tucked in anyways and you don't see them, which I feel like this pattern made that way harder than it needed to be. But again, what do I know? I whip stitched those closed, and look at this, we have a perfect piece of Swiss cheese. But we're not done because in part 10 we've still got to do 1 slice of salami. No charcuterie board is complete without a crochet salami. Welcome back to part 10 of crocheting every single thing that the hungry caterpillar eats in my biggest crochet project ever. All because I saw this video and had to have it for my daughter. Last time we made a single slice of Swiss cheese, and this time we need to make some salami. I got some comments asking if I was going to make the big caterpillar to store all the food inside of too, and yes, of course, but you're going to have to stick around to the end because we're saving the best for last. Now that I think of it, I've never actually seen a full unsliced log of salami before. Someone's going to need to tell me what it's actually called because that's gonna drive me nuts. But anyways, it's time to stuff this bad boy, and this is always my favorite part because when you stuff it, you get a glimpse of what it's gonna turn out like. And as soon as I finished crocheting it closed, I had to slice it back open because I was feeling snacky and I needed to make a charcuterie board. Is it real or is it crochet? I swear you'd never know. But unfortunately, there is something missing from the charcuterie board, and that's one slice of Swiss cheese. All jokes aside, I did love that the pattern had a separate little slice of salami. I think it turned out so cute. I'm tempted to add some Velcro, so let me know if you think that's a good idea, but let's make a lollipop in part 11. You already know what time it is. Welcome back to part 11 of crocheting every single thing that the hungry caterpillar eats in my biggest crochet project ever. All because I saw this video and had to have it for my baby girl. I think I'm gonna give it to her for her first birthday. I gotta pull out some fun new colors because in the book, the lollipop is yellow and blue. Surprise, surprise, this pattern started with a magic circle, and honestly, I don't hate them anymore because I think I'm used to them with how many we've done. I had a very cute little helper today, and one day I'm gonna teach her how to crochet too. The way that the pattern had me bouncing between colors back and forth was so interesting because you just left a long hoop and came back to it later. Yellow and blue were actually my high school colors, so while I was crocheting this, I was feeling a little bit nostalgic. I've always loved this color combo though. I sent Hunter to find us a lollipop because of course we had to compare it to the real thing, but apparently Lowe's was the only place in the valley that had a giant one. I found that so funny just because of how random it was. The pattern did warn me not to overstuff the lollipop, so I barely put any in, but when it came to the stick part, stuffing this was from my nightmares. It took me so long, but we survived and we came out victorious with one very floppy lollipop. She's still cute though. In part 12, we'll do some cherry pie. It's about time we got to part 12. Welcome back to crocheting every single thing that the hungry caterpillar eats, all because I saw this video and had to have it for my daughter. But we're upping the stakes, and instead of just doing the pie, we're gonna do the sausage too. So let's just jump right into it by making the base first, and then we'll attach other things as we go, like the filling and the crust. As I got going on the base, I kept double checking the pattern, confused because I didn't understand why it kept looking like a square. Something just felt so off, and if I had trusted my gut, I would have unraveled it, but it's a good thing I didn't because it turns out I was doing it right. This is when I started to see the light at the end of the tunnel and realized that it was starting to taper and make that nice triangle slice shape. To make the filling look like there were cherry shapes, I had to learn a new stitch called a bob stitch, and I have a love-hate relationship with it because it's so easy to do and it's so satisfying to look at, but it is very time-consuming. Out of everything that I've done for the caterpillar so far, I would say this has been the most intricate and time-consuming. Sewing the separate pieces all together is always going to be my favorite part because I love seeing it all come together. And don't worry, I didn't forget about our sausage. I did that too, and honestly, it was kind of underwhelming. I love how the pie turned out, but I do feel like the pattern for the sausage could have been more fun. But now that these are done, you know what that means. We need to make a cupcake in part 13. With the cupcake up next, it's time to get started on part 13 of crocheting every single thing that the hungry caterpillar eats. And if you're new here, this all started because I saw this video and had to have it for my daughter. But before we can even get started on the cupcake, we need to go back and talk about the elephant in the room because the only thing that this sausage looks like is a turd. Nobody came out right and said it, but I just know we were all thinking it. But thanks to a perfectly timed comment, someone let me know that I was using an old version of the pattern. So I sent a quick email and got my hands on the updated pattern, and just look how much better the sausage looks. And now that that's taken care of, we can finally get to our cupcake. And this is the exact moment my thinking cap went on because I had to learn some new stitches. I wish I could say I love trying new stitches, but for me, I love crocheting when it's just muscle memory and I don't have to think about it too much. But then again, you can never take your eye off the ball because I messed up big time. I way overstuffed the frosting, and I don't even know if you were supposed to stuff it at all, but it looked so weird. I wasn't about to unravel it, so I took out as much stuffing as I could without unstitching it. And then somehow it magically turned into a real cupcake. Just kidding, but I do think it turned out pretty good, all things considered. And I just can't believe how close we're getting to the finish line. Come back for part 14 and we'll do a slice of watermelon. Let's make our very last food in part 14 of crocheting every single thing that the hungry caterpillar eats, all because I saw this video and had to have it for my daughter. Making this is such a fun way to kick off July because nothing screams summer like a fresh slice of watermelon. One thing about me though is I always have the worst luck picking out watermelon. It's either way too mushy or not ripe at all. The pattern had me start with green and make the rind first, and my only complaint is that I think the rind should have been a little bit thicker. But on the flip side, I was very pleased with this pink color of yarn. I feel like it was the perfect watermelon color. I did say that this was the last piece of food we needed to make, but technically technically we do need to make a leaf too, but I'm not considering that food. It actually blows my mind that this is the last thing we need to make. I'm somehow both sad and excited that it's coming to an end. All that was left was sewing these two leaves together. I'm pretty sure we all know how this story goes. That night after he ate all this food, he had a stomach ache. And the next day, the caterpillar ate through one nice green leaf, and after that, he felt much better. Now he wasn't hungry anymore, and he wasn't a little caterpillar anymore. He was a big, fat caterpillar. So I think it's safe to say in our final part, part 15, we're gonna make a nice, big, fat caterpillar that stores all of this food. It's time for the big finale. We're finishing this caterpillar in our final part of crocheting every single thing that the hungry caterpillar eats, all because I saw this video and had to have it for my daughter. Go big or go home is what they say, right? Because this caterpillar is gonna be humongous, so much so that the pattern had me double up on yarn. Using a way bigger hook, I got started, and naively I thought it was gonna be so fast to make, but it just kept going on and on. It was like the never-ending project. After a couple 1 a.m. crochet sessions, we finally got the body done, and then I got started on the face. And I'd be lying if I said the eyes didn't creep me out, but they do look like the book, so I guess we have to keep them. When I started sewing them on the body, I started to wonder if our caterpillar was actually gonna be big enough to store all the food we made. And speaking of food, how come only one person noticed that the leaf was on backwards? Honestly though, I'm just glad I saw the comment because I knew it looked weird. I just couldn't put my finger on why. But after we fixed the leaf, we were done. We'd finished all this food and made a giant caterpillar to store it all. Can you believe we're actually done? All I can think about is how excited I am to read my daughter the book with this to go along with it. I hope she loves it because I seriously put so much blood, sweat, and tears into this. It better be a family heirloom. Just look at this behemoth. It barely fit everything. I love it so much. And thanks for tagging along. I can't wait to see what we make next.